Chester Norakis.
Here.
Wes Ryan.
Here.
Roger Sprague.
Here.
Susan Walke. Here. And Kip Ward.
Here. Will you please join me in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance? To the flag of the United States. For all. Go straight into consent agenda. None. I'll read it anyway, just because. The consent calendar consists of items of repeat or routine nature considered under a single action. A councilor may remove a consent agenda item for separate consideration. We have none. Council deliberations. None. Comments from citizens present on agenda, non-agenda items. This is an opportunity for members of the audience to bring to the council's attention any item not listed on the agenda for public hearing or public comment. Comments are limited to 5 minutes per citizen, and the city recorder will use the light system. Speakers may not yield their times to others, and as a general rule, this is not a time for exchange of questions. At the conclusion of this agenda item, a councilor may discuss or raise questions regarding an item presented by a citizen. The mayor has the authority to reduce the time allowed for comment in accordance with the number of persons present and signed up to speak. First on the list, Sandy Gruber.
Good evening. My name is Sandy Gruber, and I am on the Lincoln City 50th Anniversary Committee. And I'm here to remind everyone that what makes Lincoln City great is everything that goes on here. And although the 50th Committee is not putting on all of the events, they all make our 50th anniversary what it is. And coming up in August, some of the big activities are August 8th is the Sandcastle Contest, and if you have any inclination to dig in the sand and make something pretty or try to make something pretty, I suggest you give it a try. It's a lot of fun. The day after that, on August 9th, they are going to have a treasure hunt for glass floats down in the Taft area, and have a field day and have games and activities down there for everyone to participate in. August 15th and 16th, we have Hoops at the Beach, 3-on-3 basketball tournament on the top deck of the Lincoln City Outlets parking lot. Hopefully the weather holds out beautifully like it was this weekend, where it wasn't too hot or too cold. August 22nd is the Old School Classic Car Show at the Lincoln City Cultural Center. And the cars are going to be on the front lawn. They're going to be drawing your attention, and everybody there would love to have you come and join in. In September, on September 5th, we have another car show, the Surf City Classic Car Show at Chinook Winds. That's the largest car show we have here in town, and it's quite fun. September 12th, Cruise in the Bay Car Show down in the south end of town, down close to the Cutler City area on the bay. It's a beautiful car show, lots of fun, just a great group of people bring their cars there. September 12th is also the Beach Bacon and Brew Fest at Chinook Winds, so you can go see the car show, get something to eat, go back to the car show, vice versa. September 13th, we're going to be bringing back the Redheads Talent Show, a kind of a throwback to the Redhead Roundup from years past. You do not need to be a natural redhead, so all of these people, you have palettes on the top of your head. Feel free to spray paint them and join in for the talent show. It's for young kids all the way up to old folks, so we all fall in there someplace. September 19th, we have our parade, which I know you've heard a lot about. We're still looking for people to be eager to participate in our parade, or if you have an organization that would like to participate by helping with the parade or the picnic thereafter, please let us know. We're on Facebook, Lincoln City 50th Celebration, or you can stop by City Hall and ask for me, and I'll answer your questions for that. And September 24th to 27th, Celebration of Honor at Chinook Winds. Always a great weekend of activities, actually 4 days of activities, celebrating our veterans and active duty personnel. If you know anyone who falls into those categories, I highly suggest that you invite them to come and join you. There are several really good events there that recognize the dedicated service that these people have given to the country and to the community. So that's really why I'm here, is just to remind you the 50th anniversary celebration is still going on, and we have a parade coming up in September, and we're looking forward to it.
If I may, Sandy, thank you. Is there, within the Facebook page or the website, will there be people be able to be directed to each one of those events if they want to volunteer? So if they wanted to do something at the Sandcastle, is there a way to contact those people? And
yes. We have put a digital copy of this poster on there that they can get information on. There's contact information everywhere on this poster. If anyone here would like one, I have some posters I can share. And we'll also be posting, as the events get closer, we'll start posting the information specifically for those with the contact information.
Great. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate what you're doing. It's going to be a great time. Yeah.
Thanks, Sandy.
I like this community.
I have no one else listed. Is there anyone else who wanted to come up and speak? Okay. We're moving on. Public hearing, public comment. We have public hearing to receive public comment on a property owner-initiated request to rezone approximately 7 acres, 32 tax lots located south of Southwest Bard Road and east of Southwest Coast Avenue to the vacation rental VR zone. Property owners Olivia Beach LLC, Arnold Fuhr, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, Johnson and Genesis Family Properties LLC, planning file CPA and ZC 201503. I'll start off the festivities by saying I have an actual conflict of interest in this, as I'm a member of the Genesis Family Property LLC. Does anyone else have? All right, then I'm going to recuse myself and turn this over to President Greg.
For an agenda to follow?
Well, you can use the computer if you like. Just reading off of mine.
Are you ready, Mr. Townsend? Okay, I'll go ahead. It's now 6:08. The public hearing for file CPA 2015-03 is now open. This public hearing concerns a property owner-initiated proposal to rezone approximately 7 acres to the VR zone. The request is to amend the comprehensive plan map and zoning map to rezone 32 tax lots, which are now zoned multiple family and single family residential. Comprehensive plan and zoning map designation of vacation rental district VR. Properties are located south of Southwest Bard Road and east of Southwest Coast. Property owners are Olivia Beach, Arnold, Mark and Adrienne Fuhr, Lewin Johnson, and Genesis Family Properties, LLC. On July 7th, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on this matter. On July 21st, the Planning Commission deliberated and forwarded a recommendation to approve the request. Council's role is to consider the Planning Commission's recommendation, the record, and any written or oral comments or testimony, as well as information from staff, and make a decision. The City Council Planning Commission recommendation may adopt a different recommendation or take other action, including declining to make a decision. All of the file for this matter is hereby placed into the record, including, but not limited to, application materials, notices, written comment, and staff reports. Council must take a few moments to cover some preliminary matters and required statements. Any member of the council wish to declare an ex parte contact, conflict of interest, or bias in this matter? I see none.
For the record, Mr. President, we did have the mayor's declaration of a conflict at the beginning.
Let's see, we go from there to number 5, challenges. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the qualifications of a counselor to participate in this manner? I see none. Any member of the audience wish to challenge the jurisdiction of the City Council to consider this matter? Again, I see none. The following statements are required to be made at the commencement of the hearing pursuant to the City Code and ORS 197.763.5. Staff will now read a list of the applicable substantive criteria for this decision. Mr. Townsend.
The amendment must be found in conformance with the statewide planning goals, the comprehensive plan, and the applicable provisions of the zoning ordinance.
All testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward the applicable substantive criteria previously listed, or such other criteria in the plan or land use regulations which the person believes applies to the decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements of evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to LUBA, the Land Use Board of Appeals, on that issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the decision maker to respond to the issue precludes any action for damages in circuit court. Prior to the end of this hearing, any person who participated may request a continuance to provide additional testimony, argument, or evidence, or request that the record be left open to submit additional written testimony, argument, or evidence. Before the staff presents the report, I would like to summarize the adopted public hearing procedures. Brochure outlining procedures is at the entrance to the council chambers. Generally, the order of proceedings will be as follows: preliminary matters and required statements, staff report, questions of staff, applicant's presentation. Those in favor of the application, those opposed. Rebuttal by the applicant, request of continuances or to leave the record open, close the hearing, close the record, request to submit written argument, deliberations, and recommendation. The city has established some time limits. The applicant will have 15 minutes and may reserve up to 5 minutes of that time for a rebuttal. After an applicant testifies, any person may speak up for up to 3 minutes. If the council has questions, your time responding to any questions will not be counted in your time limit. If you wish to speak, please write your name and mailing address clearly on the sign-up list at the entrance. Speak directly into the microphone and begin by stating your name. If you also have written testimony to submit into the record, please provide a copy to the recorder. It's time to begin the hearing. Please present the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council members, this is a public hearing on a rezoning and comprehensive plan amendment for about 7 acres in the Olivia Beach Phase 3 and also some adjacent properties. You can see on this map the properties involved are outlined in the bluish color. Highway 101 is running north and south on the right-hand side of the photo. The ocean's on the left, and the Olivia Beach is immediately to the left of the properties outlined in blue again. These properties now that are outlined in yellow are the ones that are not part of Olivia Beach Phase 3, but as regarding the 3 lots at the southern end, those lots are owned by the Genesis LLC, and the other lot sort of in the middle of things that was purchased by a property owner before the before Olivia Beach took over the rest of the properties, and we've included that lot just as by means of, in order to not create essentially a donut hole in the middle of this particular rezoning. The property is at, I'll go back. You can see a barred road running along the north part of the property and Coast Avenue coming down on the west side. And there's a road, the existing road in the middle. These lots on both sides of this road in the middle, Southwest Dune Avenue, were originally part of the Hunters Highland subdivision, which is now is part of Olivia Beach. This is the road going up into on Dune, going up into that area, and taken from Bard Road. And there's an alley also a little bit further to the west. This is that same house that was that's here. This is just the back of it, and the alley going up in there to serve adjacent lots. And then this is Bard and Coast. This is a new house going in. The other one you can sort of see through the trees here. Bard Road's going off to the left, Coast Avenue down to the right. You can look further down. Coast Avenue, you can see, again, right in this, just to the left of center, back through the trees is that original house again. And you can see just going down coast to the south and a little bit further to the south. This is where you start getting into the original part of Olivia Beach. This structure just to the left of center in the picture is the water pump house to provide sufficient water pressure for the properties. You can see that up behind it, you can see that there's a sort of a ridge that then goes down. You can see this actually goes down pretty steeply, but up here at the top, I think the elevation's about 200 to 205 feet roughly, and it drops off pretty quickly down as low as 125 feet of elevation down near the bottom of it. This is the Genesis VRD at the south end. One of those three additional lots that have been added to the application. So once again, this is the property we're talking about. So the Genesis house is down here at the south end, and that original house I was talking about there. This property is mostly zoned RM, except for those three lots at the south end is zoned R1, single family. The RM is multifamily residential. Just a comparison of the different zones. In the RM, multifamily residential, and the R1 zone, single family dwellings are allowed. It's a residential zone. There are some non-residential uses that are allowed, like schools and churches and so on, that are allowed generally pursuant to a conditional use permit. And VRDs are allowed as an accessory use, not as a permitted use, not an outright use, but as an accessory use. And a maximum of 5 bedrooms for VRD. And I'm not having much luck here with this. And in this zone, you can only own one VRD. In the VR zone, again, single-family residences are allowed. The zone is essentially the same as the R1 zone, with the exception that it's a mixed-use zone because VRDs are allowed as a permitted use without limitation on the number of nights that they can be rented. So, and that's basically a conditional or a commercial use, so that's why it's a mixed use, and that's the principal difference between the VR zone and the R1 zone. The reason originally these RM properties were proposed for rezoning is because when the city was proposing to rezone properties to the VR zone, we didn't want to do RM zone because that was a down zoning, but the property owners could apply for it, and that's what's happened in this case. There's no maximum on the number of bedrooms, and you can own more than one VRD in the VR zone. The approval criteria must be consistent with a comprehensive plan, the statewide planning goals, and the locational criteria in the VR zone itself. And the comprehensive plan, the staff report goes into all of the comprehensive plan goals and all of the statewide planning goals. I'm just hitting the highlights here for the sake of brevity, if nothing else. The housing goals provide for the housing needs of all the citizens. And in fact, if assuming that a number of the houses that are built here are going to be VRDs, then it will be amount to converting residential property to commercial property. But there's the same land is still available for residential use, and buildable lands are adequate. In 2006, we did a buildable lands inventory, which showed that we have a sufficient amount of land for residential purposes for 20 years. And we have since taken some land out of residential zone for open space, for example. But most of that land was land that was not included in the buildable lands inventory because it's either too steep or consisted of wetlands and couldn't be developed anyway, so it wasn't considered to be available or buildable. And also, we've created new options to increase the amount of residential land or amount of residential development that can happen through designating more areas for mixed use in all the commercial zones. Now they can be mixed use as well as just commercial. And also, we've created the accessory dwelling unit option for people and the cottage cluster option, both of which allow for increased density. So there would be more possibilities for residential development than were available in 2006. Goal 7 is our economy goal to support the tourist industry and achieve a degree of diversity in the community, which will allow a balanced economy and so on. Main thing I'll say about that is VRDs are an important contributors to the city's tourist economy, and we're seeing we've seen a change in how people go on vacation. We're seeing a lot of people doing it in groups, doing it in multi-generational vacations, and that's generally they like to have vacation rental dwellings for that, more so than we used to see in the past. Our transportation goals provide a safe, convenient, and rapid transportation network. The existing RM zoning allows more dwelling units than what this Olivia Beach Phase 3 and associated properties are subdivided for. So it's actually, there will be fewer dwelling units than under the RMs or under the VR zone than would be allowed in the if it were developed as apartments and multifamily. And the development centers on Bard Road, which, as you know, is a gravel road. It's not paved, and also on Coast Avenue. As part of the development of Olivia Beach Phase 3, the applicant will be making improvements to Coast Avenue to some extent, curb gutter sidewalk, half-street improvements on the east side of Coast Avenue where it abuts the property. Also, I expect that much of the traffic's likely to go down Coast Avenue to get to the new light at 32nd Street, which should be in place by the end of the year. Some will also go north on Coast, and some will go on Bard, undoubtedly, to get to the light at 12th. And so there will be some traffic impact on those other roads. Exactly what that will be is hard to predict. There have been no studies that I've been able to find on the trip generation for vacation rentals. The Institute of Traffic Engineers publishes a big multi-volume set on trip generation, and they really have nothing relevant to vacation rentals. They do have for single-family residences a standard of about 9.5, about 9.6 trips per dwelling unit per day, and with the peak hours being, I believe it's departing trips in the morning or else returning trips in the evening. I can't remember which it is exactly. That is not directly comparable to what a vacation rental would do. One thing I can say is that according to the 2010 census, for occupied dwelling units in Lincoln City, they're fewer than 10%. I want to say it's like 7.6, 7.7, something like that, percent of the dwelling units have, the occupants of dwelling units have more than 2 cars. For the other, more than 90%, they have 2 cars or fewer. And often you see at vacation rentals, you see a larger number of cars, so potentially there's a greater impact. But so logically you could say there is some, perhaps also particularly at a peak time, such as Friday evenings for arrivals or Sunday afternoons for departures and what have you. But like I say, there's no empirical data on that at this point that I've been able to find. It's possible there's some out there. I see hints of it, but I'm not running into anything yet that I've found. Goal 9 in the statewide planning goals is that basically the same. Its economic development is basically the same as we have. The development will not have any adverse impact on the availability of commercial and industrial land because it's residential land being converted to another, actually to commercial use. So if anything, it's increasing the amount of commercial land. It does support the tourist industry. Goal 10 in the statewide planning goals, as I said, with respect to the comprehensive plan, some land will convert to commercial use, but again, it will continue to be available, and we have those other options that didn't exist in 2006. Goal 12 is transportation. The principal thing to say here with respect to the statewide planning goal is that the rezoning relates in general to uses that are already allowed, basically residential uses, and so I believe that this goal is not affected here. The transportation network is already in place. With respect to the vacation rental zone criteria, or the VR zone criteria, there are basically, I've distilled it down to 3 of them. One is that the area proposed for rezoning to the VR zone should have proximity to attractions and recreation uses. This property abuts the Agnes Creek open space and its trail network. It's adjacent to Olivia Beach and its beach access pool and their green. So you can see this green area to the right or east of the proposed rezoning. Properties proposed for rezoning, again outlined in blue here. That's the open space, Agnes Creek open space. So you can see it does abut it. And then most of this yellow area, which is R1 zoning, also happens to be, actually it's R175 zoning. It's the Olivia Beach with the green down here at the bottom, the pool up at the northern end of it, and then they have their beach access going right around in here near the bottom of the drawing. And so we've got their beach access, their green, their pools are going clockwise from the upper left, and then at the bottom left is a stairway going directly to the trail network in the Agnes Creek open space, and that was installed as part of the Hunters Highland subdivision, so that goes directly from this property right into the Agnes Creek open space. Also, there has to be adequate public facilities and services. The site is fully served by city sewer. There is water. I showed you the pump station. It's possible that there may need to be an upgrade to that, but service is available, and the upgrade would not be difficult if it was needed. And as I said, the roads are narrow, but apparently adequate, especially with the new light going in. And that's the pump house again. You can see, and also this Coast Avenue is where this picture is taken from, with Bard Road just out of the picture up to the upper left. And the final criterion with respect to the VR zone is that the area proposed for rezoning has to be either a discrete geographic area or a transition between commercial and purely residential properties. And this is it's about 7 acres, again, a fairly small area. The topography is such that with the open space to its east and being at the top of a hill where Bard Road comes into Coast, it is largely separated from those other residential areas. The slope goes down to the southwest, and that goes right to the rest of Olivia Beach. So it is topographically separate. It abuts the Olivia Beach, and as I said, it's separate from the other R1 areas. So what you need to do tonight is take public testimony, and then if you want to deliberate, if there's not a request for continuance, to hold the record open. If you don't choose to do that yourselves on your own motion, and then decide whether you want to rezone, and if you do, direct staff to prepare findings and ordinance. So that concludes the staff report.
Members of staff?
Well, I should also mention the Planning Commission recommended that this be approved. And you also have at your, I believe at your seat tonight, a couple of written comments that we've received. And just for the record, I have in my hand, present in the room tonight, the file that you referred to in your opening remarks about being included in the record. So.
By the way, I apologize. Apparently we received a text message that my mic is cutting out, so I will talk as directly as I can into it and hope that it's reaching our people out in the TV land. Are there any questions of staff? Yes. Mr. Narakis.
Mr. Townsend, you said that in the BR zone there is no limit on the number of bedrooms for the BRD?
Yeah, under the building code, a VRD in a residential zone is limited to 5 bedrooms. If it's not in a residential zone, then it can be built to commercial standards, as I understand it. It's basically the same standards as a hotel basically a hotel or motel would be built to. Usually it's fire-resistant construction, sprinkling, and that kind of thing.
And there's the height limit does not change, does it?
I believe it says that it has to be built to the R1 standards, which is the setbacks and so on, which would include the height limit.
And the height limit currently is 35 feet, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Well, so theoretically, how many rooms could you have, bedrooms can you have? How big of a hotel or motel could you put in there?
Well, you couldn't put a hotel or motel in, but you could put in, theoretically, you could put in a very large home. I mean, there's no There would be, built to commercial standards, there would be no limit on the number of bedrooms you could have.
So that'd be a motel then, or a hotel?
It would be, I mean, what's allowed is a vacation rental dwelling. A motel where the individual rooms are rented out separately. I don't think that's the same thing. It could be a big, it could be big. I'll say that.
Okay.
Any other questions? My only question is regarding the transportation situation. Have we done any investigation to see what the effect would be on Highway 101 as far as Bard Road is concerned, or 32nd, or up on 14th, I believe it is, with additional traffic? Has that been taken into consideration?
Not that I know of, not with respect to the rezoning, no.
Okay. All right. It's time for the applicant's presentation.
Hi, my name's Walker John. I'm the owner of Olivia Beach, and I thought hopefully you guys have all seen or been through Olivia Beach, but I thought I'd just show you some slides, talk a little bit about planning, about what our initial intent of the property was, and then answer any questions you might have. So, starting with, this is the Phase 3 up on the upper corner, and you can see how it relates to the rest of Olivia Beach. We're planning a stairway connection, public stairway connection that will go up the hill, and there's also going to be up on the top an additional kids park with kids play equipment, probably a small green that goes with that. And just really quickly to address your question, I think the biggest house we build is 4 bedrooms. I would say 90% of the homes we build are 2 or 3 bedrooms. So our lot sizes don't dictate that we could build like some big house with 8 or 10 rooms or something like that. So that's certainly not our plan. So this is just a shot of you can see the relationship of Olivia Beach to the ocean. The green in the middle is kind of our central park. We also have a pool on the north side, and then this Phase 3 is just to the east of Coast. But that's kind of a nice shot, and you can kind of see the architecture that we've developed there. So this is the public beach access we put in. This cost $1 million to put in. It was done with piles. It's built to be there for 100 years. We built it the right way. We spent a lot of money on it. It's rough sawn cedar, and again, it's public, so anybody in the neighborhood could use it. We didn't make it exclusive to Olivia Beach at all. And anyway, it's a really nice amenity. So all our houses front a public walkway, and it's intentional. It's to kind of create interactions with folks. So these folks could be walking by, and somebody could be sitting on their porch, and it almost kind of invites a conversation. I think what I'd like to get across to you guys is that we designed this place to be a very public place where somebody could live full-time, a vacationer could be a guest there and enjoy the infrastructure, or you could have a second home and visit periodically. But it was intentionally designed that way and from the very start, when we met, originally, actually, this site was supposed to house like a couple hundred apartment units. It was actually a project that was not really well received by the neighborhood, and Casey Roloff, who was my previous partner in this, sat down with the neighborhood at the time and said, hey, this is what we're doing. We were very crystal clear that vacation rentals were going to be a part of this plan, and they bought into the plan, and I think it's been a really good addition to the neighborhood. Again, another shot of the Central Park. Here's a little play structure here. I'll kind of get through these quicker, but I think the point is that we've spent a lot of money on public infrastructure for vacation rentals, for guests, for owners to use. And so I think, if there's ever a property that deserves this zoning, I think ours meets all the criteria. Here's a shot of the playground in the park. And this park gets a ton of use. When I left just 2 hours ago, there was a wiffle ball game in the park with a nice family. There's a volleyball court, sand volleyball court. There was a number of wetlands in this property, and we designed the streets and the paths around the wetlands. So we've got a couple of footbridges that go across these wetlands, and they really create these really nice spaces. It's another public fire pit, again, bringing people together. That maybe an owner or guests are down there. They're from different parts of the state or the country and get to know each other over a s'more or whatever. This was kind of a cool thing. We hired a local artist to cut to make these. These are actually brackets. They're actually a structural bracket to hold this fence that surrounds one of our wetlands. Again, pool. We put a pool in. This is a pool for the neighborhood. This is one of the only amenities in Olivia Beach that's not public. This is only for the owners and guests. But all the other parks are public, so folks that live in the neighborhood can come down and use the park, and many of them absolutely do. This is another shot of just this boardwalk we put into the beach access. This is a really nice space. So anyway, I really appreciate your time. As Mr. Townsend said, the Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval, and I'd appreciate your support on it, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
I guess I do.
Okay, Kip.
First of all, I was there at the meetings with Casey Roloff. I lived on Anchor for 20 years. And over the last couple of years here, watching and in some cases participating, a lot of times the developers' actions don't match their words. And in your case, or in that case, your actions matched your words exactly. So it's a very attractive development, and it has been for a number of years. And it also attracts an upper income client, and which the town needs. And I do have some concerns. One is on Anchor. I do notice that there's some really large houses right on the east side of Anchor coming up, going. Well, actually, you can see them going either way, but near the stairs.
Yeah.
And those don't strike me as 3 or 4 bedroom houses, but maybe
I think they're 4 bedroom. They're misleading. Those houses were actually designed. The original plan, they were always designed to be 4 stories. They were the kind of. I think we had to get I think they actually. I can't remember, but they were actually specifically designed as part of the planned unit development. They're tucked under garages, so it's a little misleading because the first floor is basically a garage. And but yeah, I think they only have 4 stories. Or I'm sorry, they're 4 stories, 4 bedrooms. They're about maybe 200 square feet. So I mean, big, but not like, I wouldn't call them a mansion or a
motel.
Yeah, no, not by any means.
Okay, and two more concerns, and it looks like when you've got Olivia Beach, is one of the nice parts about the Olivia Beach project is that people can be in their house and want to go and walk on the beach, and they don't have to get in their car. And to me, that's a huge asset with the parking problems that we have. When you're up that hill, and what you were saying, you think, or what has been said, is that there may be an increased usage of that property. On the Olivia Beach property, you have parking areas that kind of look like they handle overflow. Are you planning to do anything like that up top in case there is a lot of traffic? Because it's harder to access the beach from where your project is than the Olivia Beach project.
Is your concern that people are going to drive to the beach access, or?
Concern is that there'll be too much traffic for the infrastructure there, and.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see that. First of all, we're improving coast. We're putting another half-street improvement on that, and then all of our properties, we put one off-street parking space per bedroom. We've always done that, and we have to meet the vacation rental criteria, and we've always done a good job of that. And I think we actually do a pretty successful job of doing that. Not putting like some big long concrete driveway. We try to do, we've done grass pave, we've done, these oyster shell kind of pads, and kind of, I think, creative ways of doing that looks aesthetically nice.
So you haven't had any traffic problems in Olivia?
No, I mean, people complain about the width of the streets, and that's intentional, and I'll have a very civil argument with whoever complains about it because it's intentional. We want people to crawl through there, and if it takes you a little longer to get through there, then I'm sorry, but there's lots of kids running around on bikes and running, and it's just the whole intent of that is to slow people down. So anyway, so
one last question.
Bright lights are on.
I promise I won't ask any more. Why? You've got two of your roads are dumping onto Bard Street, right?
Yeah, one's already in.
Yeah,
it's already done, and then actually no, the one's coming off coast. The new one is coming off coast. So I purchased 7 lots that were already on. They front Bard and coast, and then. The old Hunter's Highland that already went on to Bard. So the one road we're putting in is off of coast.
Okay, so there'll only be one access to Bard Road.
That's
from
right.
Your project?
Yeah.
Okay. And I guess my question was, walking or driving down through Bard Road, which we did for years, it's a very narrow road, it's gravelly, it's, kind of acts like snow when you're going down as you skid around. And then it goes out to a non-traffic light. And you'll have to cross two lanes to get across Highway 101.
Well, I'd be surprised if anybody went down Bard, because anybody coming out there, I mean, if I was up on the Highlands, I would take a left, go on coast, and go to the new traffic light. I wouldn't dream of going down that gravel road. It's, I can't imagine somebody doing that. But it's just such an easier, you've got a nice, good street and coast, and it's a pretty short.
Coast, but you got to go clear down to Fleet before you have actually an access to Highway 101, I think. No?
No, you take a left down coast, and then, I know it because I actually we walk down to La Roca all the time. It's like a half a mile walk. I mean, that's one of my big selling points is you can walk up to those strip of shops. So I would be shocked if anybody would take Bard from up there.
Can I say something to that point?
Okay. Yeah.
Debbie Williams, one of the applicants for Genesis Family Properties. If you take Bard, you have to wash your car every time.
Yeah, I've done it. Yeah.
Most people would not do that.
I've gone down Bard 1,000 times. Yeah.
So unless you're going into the parking lot where the walking paths are, it's or there's an accident somewhere else.
So you don't see BART as
Oh, no, I can't imagine anybody doing that.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay. Any other questions? Chester?
I don't have a question, Mr. Chair, but I do have a comment. I appreciate, Mr. John, the following aspects of Olivia Beach development: the very attractive amenities that you put in, the transparency of your master plan and your CCNRs regarding VRDs, the fact that you've got an employee living on site, the fact that you check in guests and inform them regarding parking and the number of guests, the fact that you've got a walkable public beach access that you spent a great deal of money on and it's very attractive, and that you met and consulted with the Nelscott neighborhood. Thank you for all of that. I feel you've put a great effort into being a responsible developer and a good neighbor. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate those comments.
Mrs. Williams, do you have any presentation to make your part of this?
Yes, I do. Shouldn't be talking well.
You'll
Not
need
on the
yourself
microphone.
now.
Okay, so you have two comments from adjacent neighbors to our property, one right across the street from the Diamonds, and they live there 50 to 75% of the time. They do not rent their property. They really don't have any interest in vacation rentals, but they love our property. They love the way we run it. They love to meet the people that come there because we screen all of our people very, very well. And they notice how much time and effort we put into keeping that property in good shape for everybody that uses it and that looks at it. And then another comment from their kind of kitty corner. They're in a little house on Beach, and they've had that home, since the 1940s. It's been in their family, and they have had no issues with our home, and with a home that can house as many people as ours, that's I think really saying something. The other thing I wanted to do was give you comments, some of the comments, and these are only a sampling because I didn't want to bombard you. A sampling of the 43 comments that we have had online on HomeAway, and these are unsolicited comments. And out of all of those 43 comments, there was one 4-star. All the rest were 5 stars, and we got a 4-star because we wouldn't allow them to have a party. So the very thing that you don't want, we got a star taken off because we wouldn't let them have a party. Your comment about a hotel or a mini hotel. The difference between a hotel and, as you probably know now, a VRD is that you don't have staff there. Somebody can't walk up and rent just one room, and neither can they, usually, are they unrelated groups. They are all related in some way. But this particular home we built for our family and our family reunions, and then we wanted to bless other people with that same opportunity. And you will see in the comments that's exactly what they use it for. This is a very rare commodity, a very rare thing, and it brings a lot of people to this town. And when they, speaking to transportation and the issue with traffic, there are, I could actually have 15 cars off-street, but because of the parking restrictions that the city has, that we are allowed 9 parking spaces off-street. We built it to accommodate as many cars as people needed, so that there wouldn't be congestion on the street. But the street in front of our home is 40 feet wide, so there's really no issue, and they do not park in front of the home. And as far as people then using all of those cars and leaving often and creating traffic jams, that doesn't necessarily happen either, because once they get there, they just walk to the amenities, or if they do go to things like the outlet malls or or down to Newport to go fishing, they all kind of pile in one or two of the cars. They're not taking all of those cars out and going to things. So it's actually a really good way to have groups come together. And you have examples there of a 90th birthday party and a 61st wedding anniversary and a 50th wedding anniversary. And these are usually one-time events. I have a couple families that now are coming back on a consistent basis, and most of my retreats are on an annual basis, and they come at the off-the-shoulder times between September and May, when we really need people in this town, and we really need them using our restaurants, which they do, because I dumpster dive in the recycling bin so I can continue to have recycling, and I see where they go. I see the pizza boxes and the boxes from the outlet malls and other restaurants and that type of thing. So I do know that they are going to those places and frequenting and bringing their money here. So it's something that I think is very much needed in the town. I don't expect that there's going to be a lot of them, especially with the current building code, but it is something that is definitely needed. That's all I have, unless you have questions.
Mr. John, I have a question. At the very south end of the proposed area, there's a very narrow gravel road that winds up to, I think, a house. Is that part of this development?
That's, I think, next to are you talking about where the water pump station is? There's like a gravel road.
It's near that, yes.
Yeah, that's an old access road. That's actually going to end up going away. So, okay. Yeah, we're going to build a new street up into there that'll access the new lots, and then there's also a lane up on top that already exists that we're going to expand out. So that'll end up going away.
Okay. And then the new road then is going to actually enter into Coast Avenue then, is that right?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, the lane that is already there is going to access up Bard. So there are two streets that access up Bard, but they are both already built. So we're not building a new access on Bard.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Let's see. We'll open it up for testimony in support of the application. Anyone else want to speak? Okay, hearing none. Is there any testimony in opposition? Hearing none. Others, including any testimony from representative of public agencies? Again, hearing none. Is there a rebuttal by the applicant? Apparently that's... we don't need a rebuttal. Nobody rebutted. Okay. ORS Section 197.763, paragraph 6A states that, upon request, the council must either grant a continuance for no less than 7 days or hold the record open for no less than 7 days to permit any participant an opportunity to provide additional testimony, argument, or evidence. Does any person who participated desire to request a continuance to provide additional testimony, argument, or evidence, or request that the record be left open to submit additional written testimony, argument, or evidence? Not hearing any? Let's see. We are to. The applicant waived the opportunity to submit final written argument after the close of the record as provided in ORS Section 197.763, paragraph 5E.
Mr. President, if you look at number 15, it says, if no, read below, then go to 16.
That's what I just did.
No, where it says, is there a motion to close the public hearing in the record?
Oh, I missed that. I'm sorry. Okay, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The record also would need to be closed.
Record is closed.
The public hearing was just closed. Is there also a motion to close the record?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Okay, does the attorney or staff have any comments concerning legal issues raised during these proceedings, instructions on the applicable law, or legal advice concerning the application of the law to the evidence in the record?
Just the question you had asked before, I don't know if the applicant indicated whether or not they were going to waive final written argument. If they do not wish to waive final written argument, then you would have to continue this deliberation.
I waive.
Okay.
We got to get it on record.
I agree to waive written argument.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this matter is returned to the table for deliberations and recommendation. Comments by council.
Mr. President, I feel comfortable with this, with the decision by the Planning Commission to recommend this proposal go forward. I feel comfortable with that.
Is that a motion?
I can make it a motion to motion would be to approve planning file CPA and ZC 2015-03 appropriate findings.
You would direct staff to return with an ordinance which would have attached findings.
Okay, that's it.
Is there a second? Discussion?
Yes, please.
Mr. Norikis.
Mr. President, I've studied the staff report and the Planning Commission, to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission minutes and the Planning Commission final recommendation, in addition to the Lincoln City Comprehensive Plan goals, statewide planning goals, and the VR zone criteria, and I cannot find any reason to deny the request.
Any other discussion? And roll call, please.
Could you repeat the motion, please?
Thank you. The motion was to a Planning Commission recommendation that we approve file CPA and 2015-03 staff to bring us back an ordinance and the appropriate findings for such ordinance.
Thank you.
Any further discussion, questions? All right, roll call, please.
Walke. Yes. Ward.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Norikis.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
And Sprague.
Yes.
Motion carries.
I think that's it. I'm through.
Thank you, Mr. Sprague. Appreciate that very much. Okay, we're at ordinances. Ordinance 2015-07, first and second reading, and ordinance amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code Title 5, Business Taxes, Licenses, and Regulations, Chapter 5.16, Special Events, adding exemptions to narrow and clarify application of the ordinance and provide for a mechanism to resolve competing applications. Mamone Apicella.
Your Honor, this is first reading, and I guess it's back on because there was a snafu last time. So this is ordinance 2015-07, an ordinance amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code, Title V, Business Taxes, Licenses, and Regulations, Chapter 5.16, Special Events, adding exemptions to narrow and clarify application of the ordinance and provide for a mechanism to resolve competing applications. We're going to be looking for a motion to approve first reading, and if it's unanimous, then we'll go on to second reading.
We have a motion to approve the first reading. Okay.
Some inconsistent capitalizations throughout. Besides that, number 7, it says financial, and then it refers to director, and the director is not identified. That's not a definition. Is that the finance director? It's hard to tell there.
Did you direct me to that?
9. A7.
I'm reading it to mean the finance director.
Included as a definition.
I think that should be administrator.
Yeah, I'm not finding it, but I agree with the finance director that our intention was to change references to other persons to administrator.
That
Motion? Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve first reading with the changes mentioned. Is that sufficient? All right. Any discussion? All right. Roll call, please.
Ward.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Norikis.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Sprague.
Yes.
And Walke.
yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much for mentioning that.
Your Honor, before second reading, I will read the change. Paragraph 7 is now, the last sentence is now changed to say the administrator may waive the financial security requirement if there has been no incident within 2 years of the permit application.
Thank you.
And now, read the title again. Computer's slower than...
Are you looking for the ordinance number?
Your Honor, this is second reading of ordinance 2000-15-07, an ordinance amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code, Title V, Business Taxes, Licenses, and Regulations, Chapter 5.16, Special Events, adding exemptions to narrow and clarify application of the ordinance and providing for a mechanism to resolve competing applications. You're looking for a motion to approve second reading and adopt the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Williams.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Norikis.
Yes.
Ryan. Sprague.
Yes.
Walke.
Yes.
And Ward.
Yes.
Motion carries.
And now we are at ordinance 2015-08, first and second reading. Excuse me while I increase this. And to what I'm going to read? Ready yet?
Okay.
Okay. Ordinance 2015-08, first and second reading. An ordinance amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code, Title IV, Real Property, Chapter 4.04, Acceptance of Real Property Interest, 4.04010, City Manager Delegation of Routine Real Property Matters, Intergovernmental Agreement, IGA, Renewals and Leases. relating to delegation of authority to the city manager to enter into intergovernmental agreements involving less than $25,000. Feel free.
On the next to the last paragraph, there's
We just make a motion that everything has to run through you first. I mean, we really should just be at that point.
So at the end of page 4, there is a 2014 on line 35, so I will read that change when essentially the foregoing ordinance was distinctly read by title only in accordance with Chapter 9, Section 9.2 of the City of Lincoln City Charter on the 27th day of July, 2015, first reading, and on the blank day of blank, 2015, second reading. So I'll go back and read the title. Just by way of explanation before I do that, this is simply something that was included, I think it was your last meeting, could have been 2 meetings ago. You had an item on the agenda. It was for a very small intergovernmental agreement. I think it was $2,500 or something like that, $1,200. And in that council communication, I asked if you concurred with doing a delegation to the city manager so you wouldn't have to have very small intergovernmental agreements on your agenda, and that item was approved, so here's the ordinance.
Okay.
This is first reading of ordinance 2015-08, an ordinance amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code, Title 4, Real Property, Chapter 4.04, Acceptance of Real Property Interest, Section 4.04010, City Manager Delegation of Routine Real Property Matters, Intergovernmental Agreement, IGA Renewals and Leases, relating to delegation of authority to the City Manager to enter into intergovernmental agreement involving less than $25,000. We'd be looking for approval of first reading, and if it's unanimous, we can proceed to second reading.
Have a motion to accept first reading?
Second.
Yeah, I made a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. Now I need that second.
Good.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Davis.
Yes.
Norikis.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Sprague.
Yes.
Walke.
yes.
Ward.
Yes.
And Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Your Honor, this is second reading of ordinance 2015-08, an ordinance amending the Lincoln City Municipal Code, Title 4, Real Property, Chapter 4.04, Acceptance of Real Property Interest, Section 4.04010, City Manager Delegation of Routine Real Property Matters, Intergovernmental Agreement, IGA Renewals and Leases, relating to delegation of authority to the City Manager to enter into intergovernmental agreements involving less than $25,000. Be looking for a motion to approve second reading and adopt the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Walke.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Norikis.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
And Sprague.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Yes, please.
For bringing that back in such a timely manner.
Yes, thank you very much.
And thank you for the sharp eyes, Councilor Walke.
I'm constantly stunned. Well done. I appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. Well, I'm glad you're here. All right, Resolution is 2015-21, a resolution replacing Resolution 2014-14 and recognizing the Roads and Improvement Association as a neighborhood association pursuant to the Lincoln City Citizens Involvement Program.
Your Honor, I don't have to read this. I simply explain that this is housekeeping. The city basically is willing to accept the amendments to the policies and procedures and not require an amendment to the bylaws for the REIA, and this resolution simply acknowledges that.
All right. Do we need a vote on that? Okay, roll call.
I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you,
Your
please.
Honor.
Thank you.
I move that we approve and adopt Resolution 2015-21.
I second it.
Motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Ward.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Davis.
Yes.
Norikis.
Yes.
Ryan. Sprague.
Yes.
And Walke.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Special order of business, contract award, biosolids, dredging / pumping and hauling. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
We're going to give a PowerPoint presentation on this award. There's a little more to it than that we'll be coming back to you with later, so we'd like to set up a little bit of background here. Traditionally, the wastewater treatment plant produces about 1.8 to 2 million gallons of Class B liquid biosolids. And what biosolids are, they're a treated sewage sludge product that are regulated through the Environmental Protection Agency. In 2014, we were down to only applying 1.6 million gallons. Over the years, we've seen a decrease in the amount of fields available to apply our biosolids. So this year, before we had our fields tested, during the testing period, we were still anticipating 1 to 2 million gallons would be available to us to apply on the fields that we have traditionally applied them to. However, many fields were not available to us this year, and we only have 500,000 to 600,000 gallons that we can apply. So we advertised the bids to apply 1 to 2 million gallons. Then when we received a bid, we had 2 plan holders, 2 companies were eligible to submit bids. We only received a bid from one, the Fire Mountain Farms, Inc. They've been the city's contractor for the past 5 years. We received the bid, again, based on the 1 to 2 million gallons. Between the time we advertised and we opened the bids, we realized we could only apply 500 to 600,000. So the original bid, based on the 1 to 2 million gallons, was $0.112 or 11.2 cents per gallon. We talked to the contractor and asked him how much additional cost there would be if the quantities didn't reach the million gallons. We told him what we had currently was 500 to 600,000 gallons. It looks like that's all we can apply this year. So he adjusted his bid, and the bid that he gave us was the same price per gallon with an additional $10,000 as a lump sum fee. We feel that was a fair number. And so the total cost, because we don't know exactly, between 500 and 600,000 gallons, is between $66,000 and $77,200. So I'm going to do just a summary of that. So for this contract, what we're doing right now is asking you to let us approve us to go ahead and apply the 500 to 600,000 gallons. The total cost, we're hoping we can get 600,000 gallons applied, would be equivalent to 0.129 per gallon, or 12.9 cents per gallon. Okay, and the total, again, is, I'm going to base this on our 600,000 gallons. The total amount we are asking the award is for $77,200, and that's to Fire Mountain Farms. So we're sort of leading into a problem that we're going to encounter sooner than later, and that is that we don't see more and more fields coming available to land apply. We're seeing less and less fields available to land apply. So we're slowly building an excess in our biosolids inventory, and currently the biosolids are currently held in our lagoons. We're working with a consultant right now to look at our short and long-term options, and we're right on that, and we'll be coming back to you shortly with our findings and recommendations. So again, tonight, we're asking, normally we would come and want to apply up to 2 million gallons. We'd give you the full number. Normally, we'd have enough fields to apply that 2 million gallons. I shouldn't say normally, I say historically. But over the last few years, the fields have, for whatever reasons, the farmers have opted out of wanting us to apply biosolids. So joining me tonight is Joe Whistler. He's our wastewater treatment plant supervisor. And we're going to talk a little bit more about biosolids, how they're produced at our plant, and just walk you through that process so when we come back to you later, you'll have a good foundation for what we're talking about. So our process goes through a series of processes, and Joe's going to walk through those.
Okay, so good evening. The wastewater treatment plant starts with the sewage from the pump stations coming in. It goes through these 2 perforated plate screens. They're traveling screens, and they have a 1/4-inch holes through them, and that removes debris up front. A lot of garbage comes through the sewer system. This helps protect the equipment downstream. It keeps the biosolids cleaner later on for application. The material is washed and put into dumpsters where it's taken to the landfill. We remove the grit here. The heavier inorganics are removed, and they're also washed and put into the landfills. So past that, the sewage goes into one of 4 SBR, sequencing batch reactors. We have 4 1 million gallon tanks. They use bacteria biomass to aerobically clean the raw sewage. The excess biomass created through that process is put into digesters where it's aerobically further treated, and there's no more sewage added. It's just the biosolids themselves. The bacteria continues to break itself down, reducing the volatility of the material. And with these transfer pumps between the digesters, we will pump that up to a thickener building. And the thickener building, we add a polymer to the sludge. The sludge is then sent through a rotating screen thickener. I think that's the next one.
My video's not working. This is actually...
A moment there. Could you please define flocculation for me?
Flocculation. Everything is positively or negatively charged. The sludge, I believe it's... oh, no, you're going to put me on the spot. I believe it's negatively charged, and we add a positive charged polymer. And so
that kind of the milk of magnesia.
No. This is more of it's an actual oil-based material, polymer. It's a plastics, and it's a long string plastic. And when it's put in with the solids, the biosolids, it attracts them together, clumps them together, and then as it goes through a rotating drum, it allows it to sieve out the water and leave behind a heavier solid. And we're doing that basically to make more room on our digester, make more space in the digester system.
Great, thank you.
So it is pumped into the digester. It's held under aeration for a while longer. When we can no longer hold anymore, we put it into one of our 2 sludge holding ponds. The ponds are between right around 3 acres each. So there you see the 2 ponds. In this year, we were taking it out to the west sludge lagoon, and we were filling the east sludge lagoon. You can actually see the biosolids in the top corner of the right lagoon, the right-hand lagoon there. There's a floating dredge. There's a floating dredge out in the middle of this lagoon on the left. It's being powered by a generator, and the anyway, so it pumps the sludge up, and they screen that sludge again and put it as a liquid into the tanker, and they're about 6,000 gallons a tank, and then the tank is taken out to one of our fields in the Sluts Valley, and it's land applied. So they just use splash plates. Typically, it's under a little bit more pressure than that, but so it acts as a fertilizer because it meets the regulations for Class B biosolids, which is a reduction in volatility of 38% through the system and a reduction of fecal coliforms. We have to have less than 1,000 fecal coliform per gram, per dry gram, and we typically meet those. What we have seen in the last few years is a reduction of that volatile reduction, and what's causing that, why we're not getting the same amount of reduction, I really can't say for sure if it's our new processes we have. So that's one of the added bonuses.
So there's two reasons why our capacity to land apply are diminishing. One is simply the availability of people who want us to come and apply on their fields, and the second is
we've been applying to these fields, and it's a part of our regulation is that we go out and we sample throughout the field, and we look at the nitrogen, the ammonia, phosphates. We look at everything, the metals throughout the first and second foot of the fields, and we get that information back, and we have lost this year 4 of our main fields. Because they believe maybe because of the rain, the low rain hasn't allowed the nitrogen to wash down and be taken up by the soil. It's converted. There's bacteria in the soil that convert the nitrogen that feed the plants and allow them to grow. So it's a variety of things have come together to not be in our favor, and so we've lost those fields. We've had about 4 years ago, we lost almost half of our fields. One farmer happened to own them all and decided to opt out due to health reasons, their personal health.
So again, we'll be coming back to you with our proposed solutions, how we're going to handle biosolids, what we're recommending in the future, near future. But tonight, we would like to go ahead and be approved to apply what we can apply, which is the 500 to 600,000 gallons, again at 11.2 cents per gallon plus $10,000. So the total would be up to $77,200 is the total award.
Mr. Mayor, couple of questions. We've only got one field this year. Is there a possibility that it'll be 2 next year?
After we go through the winter and we retest in the spring, midsummer, then we'll know. But yes, there is a possibility that we could be regaining fields. That's what we typically did in the past. When we had more fields, we would rotate on and off fields, and it's just that
Are we searching for additional fields?
That's part of the process we go through, looking for fields.
How far are we willing to go to find them?
Well, our furthest one out is 30 miles right now, and with a liquid biosolids, it's a long trip. As you go out, obviously, the further you go out with a liquid biosolids, the more they're going to charge you because of just the mileage and the tanker weight.
But we get to a point where we have no choice, right?
That's why we hope we can get some good news from some consultants, maybe, to help us look at alternatives, maybe.
Well, this is certainly an important part of our whole operation with the sewer plant, and I feel that we need to okay this up to $77,200. So I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion to second. Any discussion?
Yes, I had a question. when we did the upgrades to the sewer plant, we had talked about drying, and I'm curious, would that would have eliminated this issue, would it not?
That would have put us into a Class A material, a dried Class A material, which, yes.
Yeah. So sometimes not spending that extra money at the time has come back to bite us a little bit. Yeah.
If I could ask, I'm sorry, I'll get right to it. Could you kind of clarify?
When we were talking about the upgrades to the wastewater plant back several years ago, we talked about including I don't know if sludge drying but it dried the sludge so you no longer had to store it or get rid of it like that.
Right. It would become a Class A material at that point.
And why didn't that happen?
It was quite expensive at the time, and I think we opted. The consultant, I believe, at that time decided that we probably couldn't afford at that particular time, and some of us disagreed. We thought that we should go ahead, even though it was quite expensive. But as it turned out, we didn't.
But it's still an option, just wanting the money for it, right?
Correct. That's still an option that we're evaluating, and we'll come back with today's costs and, again, hopefully a few alternatives at least that we'll be able to compare and contrast.
Councilor Norikis.
Another issue with drying that sludge, Mr. Mayor, was building a structure to keep it dry in the wintertime, which added to the cost as well.
But again, it's still available, paying for it, right? There and all that. Okay. Well, it's good information to have.
Mr. Whistler, what is the lagoon capacity, and how long do we have till we reach that?
The lagoon capacity. Typically, we put in. So we measure biosolids in two ways: in the liquid form, the 2 million gallons. We also measure it in tonnage. So we put in a typical year, we'll put in 260 tons of sludge, dry tons, to take the water away. Volume-wise, that's somewhere around 2 million gallons. That's why we always shot for the 2 million gallons at a 2 to 2.5 to 3%. When you withdraw it, when they dredge it out, it doesn't necessarily come out at 2% or 3%. It comes out how well the dredge operator can remove it. And our application is based upon poundage per acre. So a lagoon can hold about 2 million gallons. We've found that it holds, when we get over, by the end of the year, it's pushing to the end of those lagoons, and there's an overflow. The water has to be able to come back into the treatment plant. When the rains fall, there's an overflow. All the rainwater comes back in the treatment plant. So as that lagoon fills, it tends to want to come back in with the water. The solids want to be pulled back into that overflow. And so we've always tried to keep a barrier back from allowing it to come into the treatment plant. So it's traditionally been about 2 million gallons.
1 year's worth of sludge?
Well, there's a whole long story to this. It started in 1981, and we didn't apply our first biosolids until 1993. We held solids in those lagoons for 12 years. Those were the old days when the town was much smaller. Some people remember those days. And we held it there, and we held it there until it was so thick you could literally walk on it. We walked on it to obtain our samples out in the middle of the lagoon. And then we paid a lot of money to get that out. And we started up the process of removing the biosolids, and we finally got to an annual basis where we try to put in and remove what we could. What we put in, we try to remove. There's always residual left in. And over the years, and with the loss of the fields over the past few years, that residual's slowly building up.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Quick question, if I might. I have no qualms with the bid price, but were there other bidders?
There were only, this is a pretty specialized
Right.
type of construction, obviously, and we only had one bidder. We had two showed interest. The one decided not to bid. We didn't ask them why. Fire Mountain, Inc. is the predominant provider for this type of service.
And is that a pretty, you may not be able to answer this, but I'm getting very concerned the more you talk. Is this a pretty stable group that's going to be around? I mean, do we have to worry that this is...
Fire Mountain this is what they do for a living. Actually, Fire Mountain Farms, they have their own farms in Washington. They're out of the state of Washington, and they apply it to their own fields. They take it in from treatment plants in the Washington area and take it out to their farms and apply it for them. They own their own fields in Washington, but they don't own fields in
confidence
Oregon.
They'll be around?
They've been actually very, very, very good group to work with for us.
Good. Thank you so much. So I think...
But I think the danger, Mr. Mayor, is losing fields, not having a field to...
Yes. Yeah, that's, predominant. I guess that I was going to wait turn with their suggestions before I kind of pursued that angle, because I got a lot of questions about that.
Mr. Mayor, one other question. With a couple of really good rainstorms, would that change the condition of the soil so that it would allow us to do this in the future?
That's what the people I've talked to say, that probably if we went in after it rained quite a bit and took the samples, that yes, it would. The problem is our fields become so wet that we can't get on them. That's why we do it during this time of the year. In the valley, they apply starting in April, or they can apply in May. They can start applying. The fields are dry. They can go out onto their fields. Our fields, these are small fields, small farmers. They do one crop rotation a year. They don't even cut their... We can't get on early because of the weather, and we can't get on during the summer because their crops are on the field. They cut their crops traditionally at 4th of July, and so we apply in August as quick as we can before the heavy rains of September, October come. If we get back into a good wet cycle, it'll probably be helpful for us.
Good.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Williams? Davis?
Yes.
Norikis?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Sprague?
Yes.
Walke?
Yes.
And Ward?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Right. Thank you so much. Very informative, and we do appreciate all you do. All right, potential property donation, Northeast Union Avenue. For some reason, I've tried that. Oh, I'll be all right. Got the agenda, but not the paper.
While we're waiting on the mayor, for those of you who have not had the pleasure of touring our sewage treatment plant, you should take that opportunity. It is an amazing process. I have a bottle of untreated sewer water and a bottle of the water after it's been cleaned in my office, just to remind me of how an amazing service that is.
Sure.
Here's yours. Okay. The Colgill family has asked that I present this on their behalf. This is a property donation that they have requested. Apparently, They have done this before where the city manager made the presentation, and so I told them that I would. The Colvilles have asked to give 0.18 acres of property city, which is located off at the top, and then
we're losing you, Mr. Chan.
To the screen, sorry, which is on the left of the screen. As I mentioned, it's 0.18 acres in size. The value, according to the county assessor, is $35,500. There is a sewer easement. Well, the property has the red dot on it. There is a sewer easement. It's a 20-foot wide easement that runs along the back of the property, and we do have an 8-inch sewer line that runs underneath that. It continues at an angle down to West Devils Lake Road. There is also a 50-foot wide non-exclusive right-of-way easement, which is depicted in yellow. That is for a roadway purposes. There is not an easement for water or for other utilities such as power. This property was originally offered to the Lincoln Community Land Trust, but was turned down by them due to the lack of the utilities and the lack of a utility easement. If you should accept this property, there would be some maintenance that would have to be performed on it by our Public Works crew, but that would be minimal at this point. And as I mentioned, there's access to that through the 50-foot wide roadway, but again, it does not have utilities to it other than the sewer. And then also, if we wanted to, if and when the other utilities were installed, then we'd have to obtain an easement on that. In the packet of material that you had includes the parcel information, and it also includes some exhibits from a title that was done by the Lincoln Community Land Trust at the time that donation was offered to them. If you are interested in accepting this property donation, then a motion would be made to directing me to accept the donation of the property and complete all necessary forms.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
What would be the use of that property by the city?
At this point, there is no planned use for that property. It would just simply be accepting it. As mentioned, the thought originally was that it could be used as a workforce housing lot, but it does have the limitations of not having the easements or the utilities other than the sewer coming to the property.
What kind of a expectation is there that we could get easements in order to have those utilities in there?
We have not tried, so I don't know the answer to that.
Should we not know that before we decide whether we want to accept that or not?
We can follow through on that if you desire.
That would be my recommendation.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I have a slightly different take on it. You said that the yellow is an easement for a, quote, roadway or driveway?
Yes.
At one time, the city of Lincoln City used to try to have some little pocket parks for the neighborhood. I know of at least 3 that we used to have. I don't know if we still have those. But in my estimation, that there seems to be quite a few children in that neighborhood that might be worth having as a pocket park. So that's a take on it. They would not require water and sewer, so therefore, but it would be something to be utilized by the neighborhood.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, depending on the nature of the park, water may be required if you're going to be planting grass and things like that. And that depends on the nature of the park.
Did you have, Councilor Ryan, did you have anything, could you just elaborate on the pocket park?
Well, pocket parks generally are parks that, you get rid of the noxious vegetation like the blackberries and the ivy and salal, and you generally will leave it as natural, I should say, put it in bark or whatever, so that there may be a play structure or a swing.
Mm-hmm. Something kind of like down on
maybe a picnic table. It could be a horseshoe pit.
Okay.
Something, but not necessarily. You don't need an ADA or bathroom there because it's only being used by the neighborhood. They'll go to their own homes. And I agree. I don't think we need grass. We can do something else besides grass.
And so then there's no parking requirement, no parking included in that?
It's essentially a neighborhood walk park. And I would like to frankly see on some of these little substandard lots, I'd like to see a lot more of that going on. I know it's a pain for the Parks Department, but by the same token, it would enhance the neighborhood.
Why would it be a pain for the Parks Department?
Well, I mean, you got to go check it, and got an awful lot of parks, or park stuff to check on a daily basis. So, just to make sure that whatever they parks people do.
Well, we'd have to build an access road to it and maintain it.
Well, I wouldn't say a road. I would say,
if we're going to,
if Parks is going to have to go there, you're going to have some sort of
get emergency vehicles.
Yeah, a road, right. But it could be one car wide, so. And gravelled, because we don't need to blacktop it there. But anyway, it's just a thought as opposed to trying to figure out a way to cram a little house, put water in, and all of that, which just would run up the costs on that to make it almost prohibitive anyway. It might be something, that the neighborhood can utilize and make it a little special little area.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yes.
I see from the report that the taxes paid, property taxes, for 2014, 2015 were $460.62. What percentage of that would have come to the city?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I can find that out.
Okay. That would be the amount of taxes we'd be losing.
Correct. I would like a little more information. I would like to absolutely have Councilor Ryan's questions maybe pursued a little bit more. What was your question?
Well, whether or not
the easements
easement would ever actually be able to occur.
Right, and then the tax issue, definitely. Because I can go back and forth on this one, definitely. And if we're talking about workforce housing, what would that entail? What would it look like, and the like? So, but not to look a gift horse in the mouth, but to say thank you to these folks. But we do have to do our due diligence on this. Okay. Any other votes, comments, complaints? I guess that's it. Thank you. Need a motion on that, right? You just come back to us on that? Great, thank you.
I would be up next for...
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have something, Lyle?
No, sir.
Yes.
Oh, great. We're at the city manager, city attorney report section, so.
Okay, and I'm going to go turn the lights back on.
We can get it here, right?
Upper right-hand side.
Yep.
Mayor, are you ready for this manager's portion then?
Yes, please go right ahead.
I have a few things that I needed to bring up. One of those was a question came up about our water situation and whether or not there was any concern. that the city had over the water and the drought that this area has been experiencing. So I asked Mrs. Bradley if she would come and address that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I did a couple of updates. One was on June 30th. Our staff at the water treatment plant performed a manual measurement of Schooner Creek, and our stream measured 4.4 at the river mile mark above the city's intake, and the flow was 21.6 cubic feet per second. This lower stream flow is not normally seen till late July and into August, and so it's a seasonally decline in stream flow is 4 to 6 weeks earlier than normal. And so what we're measuring is the intake at the water treatment plant and how much water is passing through the creek at the intake. And so our average day demand for water was up 80,000 gallons per day in June over the same time last year. And then for the month of July, the demand is 1,990,000 gallons per day, up 166,000 gallons per day over last year so far in July. So the demand has remained steady at 1.9 million gallons per day on average, with peaks on the weekend at 2.2 million gallons per day. And that's what our demand is for the city and how much water is being pumped to the city. And so the stream flow has dropped since that June 30th to 19 cubic feet per second from the 21.6. So we're still about the 4 to 6 weeks ahead of where we are normally, and whatever little bit of rain we had this weekend really didn't affect that flow. And so we're not looking at anything drastic here. If you never know when you're going to get more rain, but at this point we're not looking at any real conservation measures. But if we were going to look at conservation measures, we have our water curtailment conservation plan. We have a 5-step process when we adopted that plan in 2006. And so what it does is give us different things that we can do. The first thing you would do is ask people to quit irrigating. And that should approximately 5 to 10% of our water use would be taken away with that. And let's see. So what we do is issue a public service announcement requesting voluntary water curtailment program activities, and so urging each customer to reduce water consumption and stating that additional measures will be taken if sufficient reduction is not achieved. And so in the 5-step plan we go just more severity of things that we ask people to do to help conserve water if we really got in a situation, which we're not in. And then we also have situations if we had a large main break, the 24-inch line was broken. So there's all kinds of really catastrophe levels. And so even in a tsunami level, we have what we would do in that as well. And I don't think you want me to read all of them, but we have a good plan of curtailment if something arises, and then we would start addressing it.
Mr. Mayor, I know that our water rights allow us to take a certain percentage of the water from Schooner Creek. What's the stop level above the water intake where we have to stop?
I don't think I didn't bring that with me.
I know there is one. I just can't remember.
There is one. I can't remember what it is. Our plant produces 6.5. That's our top number, but we never get to that number, and so we'd look at those flows. If it started to get below that point, then we would come to council. We'd probably call an emergency and discuss the situation with everybody.
What would we do if we got to that point where we can't draw any more water out of Schooner Creek? I guess we can get some out of Drift Creek, can't we?
Right, we would go to Drift Creek, but in a drought situation, Drift Creek is going to be low as well. So Drift Creek is really more of emergency backup. So if we really had a catastrophe in our system, we had some big lines break, whether we had a small earthquake or or some tsunami situation. And so you look at those details, and you can get to the point, one of our emergency plans is to shut off the reservoirs, at one point and conserve those, but we would go to the citizens first. And these levels, I think level 3, level 2 curtailment is intended to reduce consumption up to 15% without serious adverse consequences or long-term impacts on the local economy. And then when you go to level 2, then that does have adverse consequences. You start asking motels to not use water for different things, like laundry and hot water and pools and things like that.
No more showers, huh?
Right. So anyway, that's really at the catastrophic.
That is catastrophic.
Yes, and this goes up to a level 5, and so we have a plan for each one of those. But at this point, we're not close to that at all.
Okay, great information. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Yeah, it's just a couple of things to put onto your calendar. First of all, as you know, we've been holding these meetings throughout the neighborhoods and with different organizations regarding vacation rental dwelling laws and regulations. We have scheduled a work meeting with you next Monday for us to present what we have learned from that, and so you can begin to map out a course as to how you would like to proceed.
6 o'clock here.
Yes, 6 o'clock. And then you also, the 3rd, you also have on the next night, Tuesday the 4th, a joint meeting with the Planning Commission to discuss transportation issues.
I did not have a time on that.
I believe that at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock, I believe, as well, is at 6 o'clock. I was looking for Richard Townsend, but he has stepped out. The next item that we still would like to schedule a time to discuss the village's property development. However, we may find it difficult to try to squeeze in more work meetings over the next, to squeeze that into a schedule of work meetings over the next few months. So we can either try to find a time, or when we have a regular city council meeting that does not have a large agenda, we can use that time to discuss this.
What about August 31st? The Monday night?
That would work fine for me if that's okay with you. We are planning a work meeting. Oh, no, we're not. We would not be planning another one until the 21st of August because Labor Day is the 7th. So
I'm good with that.
31st?
What was your
August
suggestion?
31st to discuss the villages.
31st?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
PM here?
6 p.m. Because it's the time we always meet on Monday nights.
At 5? Does that?
No, 6 is better.
Whatever you guys would like to do.
It's better for him. It's 5's better for me. Do we have anyone else? Oh, no, it's a Monday.
6 is fine.
Okay.
And that's on the villages, correct?
I will be discussing the villages. And then one other thing, our Community Development Department is holding an open house on Sunday, August 9th. They will have a booth with the farmers market, and where they will be discussing the draft of the transportation plan. And we have emailed 1,600 of these notices out to our different people who have electronic water billing services, and if you're able to come, it would be great to stop by and see how it's going. It will be from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. again on August 9th.
And that's at the Cultural Center?
No, out in the front yard. Yeah, it's part of the farmers market.
At the Cultural. Okay.
Yes, sir. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Attorney? Nothing. All right, thank you so much. Reports from standing committees. I have Sustainability Committee report.
Good evening. My name is Soren Klingsborn. I'm a resident of Northwest Ore Drive. I'm the chair of the Community Sustainability Committee, which would maybe better be named the Bike Pedestrian Committee at this point in time. Thanks for the opportunity to give a update on what we've been up to and what we hope to achieve. Committee members, including myself, are Kathy Connor, Marge Hurl, Paul Robertson, Denise Squires, and city staff involved are Timothy Novak and Deborah Nicholson. We meet the second Wednesday of each month here at the Northwest Conference Room down the hall at 5 o'clock until 6:30 p.m. So I think if you don't mind, I'll just read down a list here and take questions after that, or if you have any questions now as to what we do, I'd be happy to fill in any gaps for you. Okay. So as far as what we've accomplished since I last spoke to council, which was probably March a year ago, March 14, we have recently applied for and were awarded a grant, a one-time grant called a Pedestrian Safety Action Plan Implementation Grant from the Oregon Public Health Authority. That was to assist with signage and education locally about state traffic laws for both vehicles and pedestrians. You've probably seen the small pedestrian signal your intent to cross signs and some of the major crosswalks up through Ocean Lake. Primarily, that was part of that grant, and some other things that we are still working on, some in-street signage. Helpful. They are, yeah. Trying to ease the congestion up there. We created and distributed a Biking Lincoln City pamphlet, trifold pamphlet for in-town routes, bicycling routes for locals and visitors, graded routes. I have a copy if you all have not seen it yet, wherever it went. That's available online and locally around Chamber of Commerce, VCB. Thank you. I just dropped it. We have in the past and will continue to provide input to Public Works on ongoing projects like the Harbor Avenue, Coast Avenue, 22nd Street improvements as far as crosswalks and pedestrian and bicycle facilities, and how those projects can help meet goals as laid out in the Walking and Biking Plan of 2012. We have advocated for implementation of sharrows on local streets. Those are the painted on the pavement bicycle directional signs over towards the right-hand side of the road. You've probably seen, there's a few of them on East Devils Lake Road that the county put down, and you'll see them in bike lanes around the place. We've worked with Public Works on that for specific placement options for those applications, and really to facilitate off-highway 101 bicycle transport predominantly, try and make it a little safer for cyclists, both tourists and local cyclists, help them find ways around town. We have a committee liaison to the Public Advisory Committee for the Transportation System Plan that's ongoing. We have a liaison to the county's Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, and we have been involved in the Safe Routes to Schools action plan process for Ocean Lake Elementary. And that's just wrapping up soon. Any questions on any of those items?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Do you coordinate at all with the ADA representatives?
With the what representatives? With
the ADA?
We have, yeah. We've been, not regularly, I should say, but we have, and that was actually one of the things that Mayor Anderson, former Mayor Anderson, requested that we be involved in. So we've had some presentations from Stephanie Reed at Public Works on ADA requirements, and I know that the city has quite a,
got a long list.
Yes, exactly.
In one of the meetings I attended, there was talk of putting candlesticks in the center of the crosswalks. Any update on that? Is that still a possibility?
It is a possibility. In the last meeting, which I unfortunately wasn't present at, locations for 4 of those, and that would be part of that pedestrian safety grant. That money would come from that grant. Those would be placed. I'm not going to remember all the locations off the top of my head, but yes is the short answer. I think there have been some around town previously before I town, but yeah, it would be great to see them.
And for the benefit of the council, these candlesticks are basically plastic pylons that are stuck in the pavement.
Round plastic base.
I don't know the technical details, but there's this plastic item in the middle of the road that is really hard to ignore when you're driving. You know that there's a crosswalk there.
You can see one of those behind factory stores. If you turn there at the Shell station and go east, there's one down at the bottom of the hill. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they're hinged, so if they do get hit, they come back up. They're not a one-time use thing.
I didn't know they do that.
Well, I think I've seen people reaching out to swat them as they drive by because it's only a 25-mile-an-hour zone.
Right. A little bit of a target. Yeah. Any other questions?
I'm glad to hear those are still on the table.
Moving on to goals for the short-term future. We hope to and expect to continue to work with Public Works on bicycle pedestrian improvements for more sharrow placements, potential pedestrian path on Southwest Coast involved in that overlay, and locations for bike racks around town to try and encourage use of bicycles. We will provide support for the VCB's efforts for a wayfinding system for both on and off Highway 101 transportation. You can see them in Salem and Portland, and it's
critical.
Yeah, I think it would be a huge improvement. We're going to support efforts to increase student use of public transport for travel to and from Oregon Coast Community College campuses. Try and make it a little more financially feasible for the students to use the bus system. Advocate for improvements to local traffic safety and consistency in travel speed on roads by way of the Vision Zero initiative. And that's, we think, something that you'll probably come to hear of more. It's out of Sweden, and essentially Vision Zero is zero fatalities on roadways, whether it's vehicle accidents or pedestrian accidents. But it's I'm no expert on it, I have to say, but it's a set of guidelines as to how to implement traffic flows and speed changes and things like that. And I think we all know that 101 can be challenging with the changes in speeds and widths and all that, and it would be possibly a good guidelines, really.
So your group is coordinating with ODOT on something?
Yes, it would have to come through ODOT, and it would be certainly larger than just our group. It would be, I would imagine, come down to city ordinance and things of that nature, whether or not the city supports a Vision Zero. And that's really what it's coming down to, is other cities such as Portland or New York City would adopt Vision Zero as goals and guidelines for how people move about on streets. And we have a liaison to the Nelscott Gap Refinement Plans Public Advisory Committee. That's just getting going. We have working on implementing changes to the city's comprehensive plan and municipal code that are laid out, specific changes laid out in the city's walking and biking plan, section 4.4. And we have supporting and sponsoring events to celebrate the new infrastructure, bike and pedestrian infrastructure that we have, such as when the new Nelscott Gap sidewalk and all that construction is through. We plan to have essentially a ribbon cutting sort of a thing, whether it's a group walk down the sidewalk or some such thing. And any improvement is good improvement, I think. So, and that's where we're headed. Can I answer any questions?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Did you have something?
Yes, I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Sorensen, and everybody on the committee for your hard work, your time, your energy, many ideas, perseverance. Thank everybody for me, please.
Will do. Thank you.
I'd second what he said.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you.
It's nice to see something coming. Oh, I don't want this to sound wrong. I'm happy to see something come out of that committee.
Thank you. Understood, yeah.
Okay, thanks. And I'm wondering if I might piggyback maybe something to Lila on this. We're done. Thank you. I have a question concerning Nell Scott and the parking lot and the highway and the sidewalk. I've had some people come to me and say, what is that parking lot and that sidewalk at the 35th?
Okay, that sidewalk on Southwest 35th and the parking lot is an urban renewal project, and they're finished. They were waiting for the ODOT project to be finished to tie in that connection, and so they're going to be, they have that design, and so they'll be bidding that soon, I'm sure.
Okay, so that will be a usable sidewalk?
That'll be a usable sidewalk, and actually it's a driveway as well.
Yeah.
So it's just not finished yet.
All right.
But I know it will be. It will be soon. You'll probably see them bringing back bids for that.
All right. Great. Thank you. Appreciate it. Additional comments from citizens present on non-agenda items. I don't have a sheet, so.
You got somebody back there.
Yeah. Please come forward.
Ross Smith, here's my address, 940.
You don't need to give your address.
Oh, Cutler. Hold on, let me get this up.
Well, we stopped the address thing a long time ago.
Oh. Okay.
We didn't want people to know you weren't home. Didn't quite seem.
Okay. Honorable Mayor and Councilors, thank you for giving me this opportunity to present to you an analysis of our current bed and breakfast, transient room tax, and vacation rental laws. You guys have a copy of this? Great. To create this analysis, we reviewed the relevant code from all the cities and counties on the Oregon coast and have summarized the work into 6 tables spanning 11 pages. As you know, we gave draft copies of this a couple weeks ago, but what's tonight is presented the same. It's pretty much the same information. It's just reformatted to be on a portrait page. So if you have any questions while I'm talking, feel free to interrupt me, please. So on pages 1 through 4 are a comparison of our of the bed and breakfast laws on all the cities on the Oregon coast and the counties. And one thing to note that on page 3 is that Lincoln City doesn't actually require bed and breakfast to offer meals. So what that means is if anybody wants to rent out a bedroom short term, they would probably be classified as a bed and breakfast and not a vacation rental. So that's something we might want to consider looking at. And pages 4 through 8, we have a comparison of our vacation rental laws, comparing with our coastal neighbors. And there's a lot you could say here, but if I was to limit myself to a single comment, I would say that we certainly blaze our own trail as far as vacation rental laws go, and we might want to consider a gentler touch moving forward. So page 9 is a comparison of our zoning laws for bed and breakfast and vacation rentals along our coast. And I think the most interesting thing to note is that only 2 other cities define bed and breakfast or vacation rentals as accessory use, and that's Sisters and Seaside. And then, let's see, on page 10, we compare our transient room tax rates along our coast. And what I found is very interesting is that the average rate on our coast, if we normalize by population, is 8%, like 8.01%. And we're at 9.5%, so we're actually about 9.5 or 12% higher than the average along the coast. And I know that some of our lodging providers are, continue to struggle. So we might want to consider asking our voters to lower our tax rate to something closer to that average so that we could be more competitive in the market. And that might also encourage us to be more fiscally prudent on the spending side, which is always a worthy goal. And our last table on page 11 compares how the state and our coastal neighbors tax incidental short-term use. And it's interesting to note that, the state and most of our neighbors don't tax if someone rents for less than 30 days a year. So we have a similar clause in our tax code, but we cut it off at 14 days. So if we want to encourage incidental use, we might want to consider raising that number to be more in line with our neighbors in the state. And I hope you find this information useful in your discussions. And if there's anything, any aspect of the work that needs clarification or refinement, please let us know, and we'll do what we can to help clarify or drill down into more details. Any questions?
I'm not finding all the information you referred to.
Okay.
I only have 4 pages.
Oh, there's 11 or 12 pages. You can have my copy.
Is it available to us somewhere else?
It has been emailed to you.
Put it online.
It's been emailed to us.
Matter of fact, there's a couple of versions that have been emailed to you. What you had before you was the information I received today.
Oh, okay.
I can put it online. I can put it at tsol.org/worksheet.
Well, maybe just forward that on to...
Oh, yeah, he has a copy.
Okay. Well, great. Then we'll know where to get it.
And I noticed several of these communities are not coastal. They can be comparisons, but they're not coastal.
Well, they're close to the coast. Yeah, they're
Sisters?
probably not right on the coast, but
Sisters
they're
is not close to
I
the coast.
Googled coastal cities, and it came up. Yeah, I think Toledo's not really coastal.
Well,
yeah,
Toledo's a lot more coastal than Sisters.
Yeah. Well,
I appreciate that.
apologies. And I could have added other cities too. It's a lot of work to. Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Body of work here.
Well, it's all on the internet. The last page is a list of all the, code and transient room tax ordinance and zoning, BRDs, municipal code, city charter. I even found council rules on one website. So, anyway,
all right.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Mayor, I had a question.
I'm sorry.
You mentioned that we would provide that. Who is we?
Well, it's mostly me, but I had a couple people help me. Doug Coates helped me with some information on Tillamook, which he's more familiar with Tillamook than, I don't have any experience with that.
Oh,
so.
you made it sound like it was an organization or something. I wasn't sure.
Well, it's mostly me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ants. Then we move on to announcements or comments by City Council.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I have a comment. And my time up.
Your time is up.
In our packet that we received digitally, there were, again, in the land use packet, 42 duplicate pages. And that's so hard to compare digitally. I'd really appreciate if that duplication was eliminated.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, I have a comment. The tactics being used by critics of our city attorney, Councilor Ward, and myself include attempted intimidation, harassment, and lying. This is the work of bullies dissatisfied with the democratic process when decisions made do not reflect their interests. As freely elected representatives, Councilor Ward and myself exercise our right to vote for policies that we feel are in the best interests of the city. As duly elected officials, this is our duty and responsibility. Attempting to influence my thinking and voting decisions with such undemocratic conduct will not succeed. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, let's see, we have the first ever newspaper people around are going, you can't have an inaugural first ever. Meeting of the Regional Airport Review Task Force Committee. I was asked to be part of this by Mayor Rumagoo from Newport, and we're going to start talking about the development of the airport transportation system here, which is an exciting thing to be part of. Tomorrow at 4 p.m. we have the outside agency presentations, council chambers. 6:30 on Wednesday, Driftwood Library has a summer reading program, which has just been exceptional. If you have kids, if you don't have kids, if you just enjoy a good time in a nice atmosphere, 6:30 Driftwood Library. I'll be at the Oregon Mayors Association Conference this weekend, where I'll get to give a few minutes speech to encourage everyone to show up next year, because we will be hosting that conference. Technically it's South, but we'll be hosting it. We have the North Lincoln cohort on Wednesday the 5th between 6 and 7:30 to discuss the Agnes Creek open space. And then the powwow and Siletz, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, August 7th, 8th, and 9th, which I would encourage everyone to participate in. I have. With that, we stand adjourned.
When do you have the cohort meeting? Is that the social for the cohort? The Agnes Creek?